The Obama interview, numbers as preface. In the latest NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, when asked who has a better chance of beating the Republican nominee, 47% of Democrats said Barack Obama. 40% answered Hillary Clinton. In a direct matchup against John McCain, 46% said, of all voters there, that they would vote for Obama, 43% for McCain. 45% said they'd vote for Clinton, to 44% for McCain. Yet in our fourth story in the countdown, the issue of electability still dogs the Obama campaign, ably aided by the Clinton campaign offensive to persuade superdelegates to overrule the pledged delegate count.
She's going to end this thing roaring. And what are they going to say if she wins the popular vote? I'm sorry, we're going to give it to the caucus states that are going Republican in November? No. So all these people are taking...
That is only the latest of countless metrics of electability offered by the Clinton campaign. Two essentials they have not invoked. One is fundraising, in which Senator Obama has set the all-time record. The other, the almost inescapable fact that when you add up exposure to the candidate and time, Senator Obama's results in every primary and every caucus have grown dramatically from where even the most generous of poll numbers placed him at the starting line. In the interview Meredith Vieira conducted with Obama and his wife Michelle, the senator did not mention the former, but very much emphasized the latter.
Right now, I'm the front runner, at least in votes and delegates. Although I still would argue that, I am the underdog in terms of being most likely to have emerged where we are now. I think that's fine. I think it's great that people are going to be lifting the hood and kicking the tires. I want to make sure that they're doing that with all the candidates. And I'm confident that when people get to know me, then we do really well. Part of the reason we won Iowa, where I was, I think, discounted fairly early on, was because we had so much time there that people got a chance to look at me and look at Senator Clinton and all the other candidates very closely. And we're able to make some judgments about it. In these larger states, as the campaign goes on, it's much more of a TV race. We're not having as many of these conversations. The coverage revolves more around gaffes and polls and attacks. And so our challenge, our job, is to make sure that people understand not only my story of 20 years working first as a community organizer and then as a civil rights attorney and then as a senator and also as a father and as a husband, but that they also understand how my life and my values and my ideals connect directly to theirs. Because the reason I'm doing this is that this country gave me chances that I could get nowhere else. That is what America's always been about. That's where where we can take such pride in this country, and it's slipping away for a lot of folks. And that's why I always talk about the fierce urgency of now. The reason we are running is because we want to make sure that the story that allowed our lives great possibility has to be available for every child and every family here in America. And we've got the resources to do it, and the people in America are decent enough and generous enough to do anything, as long as they've got a government that is listening to them and is working for them. And that's what I intend to provide.
But politics is tough business, as you found out. Right. And when you talk about the big states, you've also been able to put a lot of money into them. Right. And have not been as successful as I'm sure you would have hoped to be. There are people who might look at your recent record and are beginning to question, geez, why hasn't he closed the deal?
Let me dispel this whole big state argument, which we hear constantly from the media. I won my home state of Illinois, as Senator Clinton did. She won New York. I also won Georgia, big state. I won Missouri, big state. I won Wisconsin, swing state. I won Virginia, big state. This notion that somehow we have not won big states, or we haven't won the right states or the swing states.
It's not a notion, though. It is what the political folks are saying.
No.
And it's clear.
No, you know, Meredith, it's simply not true. You know what the closest state was in 2004? It was Wisconsin. That was the closest state. And it was very tight. And guess what? We won that state by 18 points.
So you feel good about
Iowa
so
was a
far
swing state. Missouri was a swing state. And so, you know, I mean, there is this narrative, I think, that has been promoted. And if you look at the map, we've won a lot of swing states. But what we've also done is we've expanded the map. And that's what is going to make a difference in terms of us being able to deliver on health care, on gas prices, on all these various issues. If all we're doing is having the same battles that we had in 2000 and 2004, then we can't deliver on relief on gas prices. We're not going to get a universal health care plan because we're going to have the same divide in this country, and we'll tinker around the edges, but we're not going to be able to deliver. And what I've done is to get states like Colorado and Virginia suddenly in play. We've been attracting new voters and young voters.
And the way the money has been raised is, you know, I mean, this is also a fact.
Right.
That Barack has brought in has changed the face of political fundraising. I mean, you know, no one was courting $20, $30, $40 donors before this race. And when you go out there and you're on the ground and you talk to the thousands and thousands of people who have said they've never written a check before, they've never been involved in a political campaign before now, they've never been inspired. And, you know, rest assured, some of those folks are supporting other candidates, but there's a huge chunk of those folks who are also engaged because they see something really fundamentally different in this race. And that's also a fact that we can't ignore, because we also don't want to discount the new people that are engaged because they don't fit into the old paradigm of how polls and pundits sort of review this state stuff. They also said that young people wouldn't get involved. Everybody said that. At the beginning of this race, they said, Barack, you shouldn't waste your time on young people. They'll never vote. And that premise has been thrown out the window as well. And I think there are a lot of young voters that you probably know in your life who are paying attention in a way that they just haven't before. I mean, we hear that from their parents. We hear that from people who are Republicans and Democrats alike. So those are facts as well that we have to talk about, because if we don't talk about them, then people feel like they don't count. And we want to make sure that the people who are engaged in this process are recognized, and that the difference that they're making in this race is important, not just for this race, but across democracy, because we don't want to discourage them.
When you hear somebody call your husband an elitist, or they've called you unpatriotic at one point, when you hear them say about you, well, he doesn't have fire in his belly, he has arugula in his belly. How do you respond to that?
Well, look, we wouldn't be sitting here if that was the perception of the majority of the American people. This is how politics is done, right? What happens is that you're a wonderful guy as long as you're unthreatening and you're in the back of the pack. And when you become the front runner, suddenly people have all kinds of notions about you. When I stood in the Democratic National Convention and delivered a speech whose entire premise was how great this country was and how my life would not be possible in any other country. It was hailed as just a wonderful patriotic speech, precisely because it spoke in great detail about this country I love, the opportunities that it provided my grandparents my grandfather fought in World War II, the ability of a single mom like my mother to raise two kids and to see them succeed. You know, the life of my Michelle. And so I talked about these things in great detail, and people thought it was terrific. It's only when you become the front runner that suddenly people are looking for potential chinks in the armor. Now,
but are you responsible for some of the things that you said?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, I think that well, there's one particular thing, which was the comments I made in San Francisco at the end of a long day that were very poorly phrased, but that were based on something I deeply believe, which is that a lot of working families in this country have been hit really hard, and they're mad about it.